You could have someone from the Historical Society have you come up and speak at the podium. Can the mayor hear us?
Mayor, can you hear us?
You're muted.
Just want to make sure before I start things. Mr. Mayor?
Ignacio, can you hear us? We cannot hear you. It looks to us like you're muted.
Mr. Barnes.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
If you can hear me, you might want to try logging out and logging back in.
I just texted him and told him to do that too. He said he doesn't know why it's not working. Well, you're on, Rick.
I'm going to go ahead and get started so when he gets on, we can start.
Paul, he said it says he's in a practice section. I've never heard of that, Paul.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
We sure can.
Can.
I'm not hearing anything.
Recording in progress.
Can you hear us
now?
at all? Mr. Mayor, you may want to check your speaker settings.
Give me a second. I'm going to have to call in. If you can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
We can hear.
He can't hear us. He can't.
I feel so rattled today. I don't know why. It's okay. I'll live. Actually, I'm going to take notes first. Next time. Oh, it's right here. Okay. Public comment. No wonder I didn't want to come in.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. You have joined the meeting as an attendee and will be muted throughout the meeting. The host would like you to unmute your microphone. You can press *6 to unmute. You are unmuted. You are muted.
Mayor, you need to mute your computer.
Yeah, I'm trying to get control of it now. Sorry here. I don't know why it's not working.
Mute your computer one. Yep, there you go. Can you hear us now, Mr. Mayor? Can you move him as a panelist?
Are you not able to hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you guys. It's the problem.
Even on your phone?
It's echoing. If I mute, I can't hear you on the phone either.
You are.
What about,
Don't know what to do here.
attorney? Oh,
Try to unmute your phone and leave your computer muted.
Now can you hear me?
We can
Yes.
hear you now. Just keep your
Okay.
computer muted.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing here.
It's working.
All right, we'll go back to calling the meeting to order of April 4th, 2022. Councilmember Morales, if you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll go to roll call, please.
Councilmember Morales?
Here.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Present.
Mayor Velasquez?
Here.
Councilmember Resendez?
Here.
Councilmember Burns?
Here.
Police Captain Batano?
Here.
City Manager Miller?
Here.
City Attorney Epperson?
Here.
Thank you. Verification of agenda posting. The agenda for the City of Hollister City Council regular meeting of April 4th, 2022 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on March 30th, 2022 at 4 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to proclamations. City Manager.
Christine, do you have the proclamation over there? Or, no? Yeah. I'll have Rick do it. Or, sorry, Vice Mayor Perez.
John? Daisy? So I stand on- Can you guys line up this way? Wow, this is really fitting. What an honor. So the proclamation of the City of Hollister 150th anniversary, April 2022. Whereas it is fitting that we should join in expression of our pride and our appreciation for the many civic and economic benefits that our community has enjoyed over the past 150 years because of the growth, prosperity of our city. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Ignacio Rick Perez, Vice Mayor, on behalf of Mayor Ignacio Velasquez, do hereby proclaim the year 2020 as the City of Hollister's 150th anniversary. This is for you, for the Historical Society, and this is for the city. You guys come up here. We're gonna take a picture. How about we come this way? You guys gonna get in here, 3 or all of them? I mean,
All of us
You
or
guys-
just them?
I'm counting 1, 2, 3.
Can we say something?
yes, oh yes. John, did you want to start off?
I just want to thank the city and the inhabitants of the city of Hollister for the opportunity to have this great celebration for our great community. Thank you.
This is Ruth Erickson. We were very happy to see that the City Council wanted to show its pride in having a 150 years celebration of Hollister, the county seat of San Benito County. Many local people, along with new residents, will be able to enjoy the history of their city. If Colonel Hollister was alive today, he would be proud of how the city, bearing his name, has prospered and grown. I hope all of our local politicians participate to show their pride in representing the city that they call home. Thank you.
If I can
Thank
add
you.
to that.
Go ahead, sir.
Personally, I'd like to thank John, because I think he was the whole committee for this whole endeavor that you guys have taken on, and it's going to be an awesome event to happen to commemorate our 150th anniversary. So that, I applaud you, but I know, John, you've been a real drive force of this, and so I personally want to thank you for all that you've done, not just for our 150th, but for preserving our history for San Benito County and the city of Hollister. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to now move to the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to pull? Do we have any from the public?
I'd like to pull the,
Go ahead.
the warrant register. So that's number 3.
Item 3. Okay. Is there any others? Do we have any from the public?
We have none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a
Second.
motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Resendez?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Yes.
Mayor Velasquez?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
We'll move now to item A3.
So I,
Go ahead, Ms. Morales.
thank you. I just want a very friendly reminder about the warrant registry. I think I've been on council for December, January, February, March. I'm going on my 4th month, and this is one of my asks. It is imperative that we have a detailed description, a summary of the expenditures, where they go, so that there's proper reconciliation, and that as policy makers, that we have a true understanding of where we are in terms of our finances and how we can move forward. And I'm going to continue to pull this item until those summaries are put in here.
Yeah, understandable.
Okay, any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call vote, please.
May I clarify if that was Vice Mayor or is it? Okay. Councilmember Resendez?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Yes.
Mayor Velazquez?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We are going to now move to public input. This is a time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. If you are joining us by Zoom, please click on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. If you are joining us by Zoom using a cell phone, please press *9. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note, state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mr. Mayor? Susan Logue?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Susan Logue, resident of Hollister. Thank you all for being there tonight and for putting forward the Hollister 150 proclamation. I think it's very exciting. We'll be moving in this direction, and I look forward to the events that are going to be celebrating the incorporation of Hollister as a city. I just want you to know that technically something's going wrong with the computer feed. In other words, I'm hearing overlay. So as Dolores was speaking, I also heard the next couple of minutes forward. So you may not be getting everybody in at the same time because there seems to be some kind of problem with the computer in regards to being on Zoom. Just wanted you to know that. In regards to the library, I wanted to let you know that this week is National Library Week. And there's a lot of wonderful events that are going on in the library this week to celebrate. Tomorrow is National Library Worker Day. So if you get a chance and you've got a favorite friend and they're in the library, please, stop by and say hi. In addition, the Friends had a recent fundraiser that was on March 20th, and we did a wonderful job with raising monies for the library. We made over $3,000. Thanks to the wonderful people who attend our events, the donors, and the very generous anonymous donation we've got coming too. Very exciting. So thank you all for being involved with the library and supporting our local community.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm giving it a moment, but I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We're going to now move to item D1, City Manager's Report.
Yeah, I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. We're going to move now to D2, Training and Conferences.
Yeah, I will say that the police chief took me kicking and screaming to a city manager and police chief training for us to work on how do we work better together, or it's more of a statewide post training. And I will say that we've got a very good training out of it on how to improve that communication moving forward. I would say it wasn't. We didn't have a bad communication, but it was a good program that taught us how to continue to improve that, and then also to work with the council also. So it was very good. So I really appreciate that one, and that's all we have for right now.
Thank you, sir. We'll now move to item F1.
Staff's coming down now.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This item is related to a policy that would grant U.S. veterans preference during the hiring process for City of Hollister employment. City Council directed staff to prepare the policy. Briefly, the policy is as follows. So veterans requesting preference would be required to provide a city employment application, veteran supplemental application, and a copy of their DD-214 discharge papers. Eligible veterans would receive a credit of 5 points, which would be added to their final scores during the hiring process. In the case of disabled veterans, a credit of 10 points would be added to their final scores. Staff recommends that City Council approve the policy and has prepared the necessary resolution for approval considerations. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. I do see Mr. Resendez. Do you have your hand up, sir?
Thank you. I can wait till after public comment. Thanks.
Do any of the other council members have a question now? Just if you, it's helpful if you just raise your hand so I can see you guys. You do have a comment. All right. Do
I
we
have no
any
public
comments
speakers.
from the public? We have no public. Okay, Mr. Resendez, go ahead.
Thanks. Just briefly, I just want to thank you guys for moving so fast on this. We asked, I think, a couple meetings ago, and you turned it around so quick. So we really appreciate you. I think that our council in general, past and present, pride ourselves on supporting not only the people that defend our country every day and our law enforcement officers and our fire department. So I'm really, really glad to see you move so quickly on this. Good job. Kudos to you all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Is there a motion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Resendez?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Yes.
Mayor Velazquez?
Yes.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Thank you. We'll now move to item F2.
So, this item would approve a professional services agreement between the City of Hollister and Ralph Anderson and Associates. During labor negotiations, City Council agreed to conduct a class and compensation study for all city job classifications. The city sent an RFP to 5 consult firms and received 1 responsive proposal from Ralph Anderson and Associates. Ralph Anderson Associates has the experience and resources to perform the work requested from the city in a timely fashion. The proposed base cost to perform the work is $32,800, and anticipated timeline is about 6 weeks to finish the work. Staff estimates the total cost of the work to be approximately $37,000. That amount will cover the base cost and a 12% contingency for any unforeseen additional work, as well as attending meetings or making presentations to the city, which costs are not accounted for in the base cost. Staff recommends the City of Hollister City Council adopt a resolution approving the professional service agreement with Ralph Anderson and Associates and authorizes the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the City of Hollister. Staff has prepared the resolution for City Council consideration and approval. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from Councilmember Morales?
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the jurisdictions that will be used in terms of size, and then how, usually when you're looking at comparisons, there's always, I don't want to say mistake, but when they do the comparisons, they look at base versus any of the roll-up costs, including co-pays and any other supplemental pay. So can you talk a little bit about like the methodology in which the company will use, or the instructions that will be provided? Because we want to make sure that if there is a contract moving forward, that the way that the study is going to, or the comparison will be done is done through the appropriate jurisdiction in terms of size and growth and everything else, plus the appropriate job specifications or classifications, and then how the compensation is compared is adequately compared. And because there's different formulas, different contracts, and there's a lot of supplemental pay associated, we also want to make sure that that's included.
Yeah, that's normally included in it. They're going to look at a total class and compensation, so they're going to look at the city as a whole. I don't have the listing of the jurisdictions they'll be using, but it was included in my staff report, their actual proposal. So it does have a breakdown of all those different agencies that are going to be included. I know you are concerned about additional pays and so forth, and they do roll all that up, and they include that in the study and analysis.
And then is this item going to be brought back to council for review and any supplemental information in case something was missed or wasn't done appropriately?
Yeah, there is an additional item for appropriation, supplemental appropriation, which is the next item. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Resendez.
Thank you. I do see some of the questions asked by the councilwoman in the actual staff report of the proposal. I'm just wondering, is the vendor online for this conversation? Maybe we can ask get more clarity from them. Is the vendor here tonight?
No, unfortunately, they are not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I did see a lot of those concerns in the proposal itself, the RFQ. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. Two things real quick. Is it going to also factor in retirement systems? Because I know that our city is a PERS agency, and that could certainly factor into salary, I believe.
I believe it is.
Okay. For me, that's kind of an important thing. I just say that.
And I believe the cities that we picked were all CalPERS cities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my second question is, I did look at the references, and I noted that the city of Monterey used this firm, and they had quite a long list of other jurisdictions. Did we reach out to any of those other jurisdictions to see what their results were, what their thoughts were on this firm?
No, I did not.
Okay. For me, I think it could be helpful to at least, at your convenience, maybe reach out at least to the city of Monterey. It seems to me like they were probably the closest one that I'm aware of. And just get a sense for their value and their work, recognizing we're kind of limited here based on the fact that they were only one proposer out of five. And so, anyway, those are my thoughts. But thank you. I appreciate the timeliness of this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Resendez?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Yes.
Mayor Velazquez?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move now to item F2.
So this item is to approve the funding to cover the work for the class and comp study being performed by Ralph Anderson and Associates. Staff requests an appropriation of $37,000 from Fund 101 to cover the work, and has prepared the necessary resolution for City Council approval.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Resendez?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Yes.
Mayor Velazquez?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now move to item F3.
F4?
F4.
F4, sorry. F4?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So at one of the council meetings, it was asked for staff to bring back potential solutions to the fentanyl issues that they're being experienced within the city recently. So we were contacted by Youth Recovery Connections, a nonprofit startup that specializes in prevention, and staff is requesting $65,000 to help out the nonprofit. Just so for council to know that San Benito County is reported in 2021 that there were 36 individuals that required Narcan administered to them, and actually in the last 3 months we've had 17 cases. So I have Amy Bravo and Michael Salinas from the agency here, and also they can provide other services to the city if requested. But I'll have Amy do a quick introduction to their organization.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members, for hearing our proposal tonight. We appreciate your time. Just quickly, I hope you all had a chance to review the proposal and the attachments, including the budgets in our brochure. And as you all know, we've been fighting an epidemic for a long time. The opioid epidemic really started getting going about 5 years ago. And we've made a lot of headway until pandemic came, right? So I always say we've been fighting an epidemic during a pandemic, and everything intensifies. Just this last week alone in the city of Hollister, you had 5 overdoses. Nationwide, since 2018, 786 deaths till 2020, 3,946. Some cities, including Monterey County, are seeing a 900% increase in overdose deaths. And so we know there's a problem, and how are you going to meet the problem? So personally, I come from a background of addiction, a lived experience, and I came here in January to partner with Michael in opening up a nonprofit after your resident, my niece, Faith Ann Carter, aged 15 years old, died from a fentanyl overdose. And it touched my heart that rural counties don't have the services that you need to treat the youth, and not just drug treatment, but prevention and mental health. My niece was involved in the mental health system, and in our attempt to bring prevention to San Benito County is to be bridge builders, bridge the gaps between what's happening at the school and stakeholders, so that we can collectively treat the youth and their families in a way that we can improve outcomes here in the community.
So as
Thank you.
Amy,
Any questions?
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
So as Amy mentioned, we decided to embark on this mission. It's been about 6 months now, and I think we all have come from a history with substance use or mental health, and so, this kind of stuff touches our heart. I definitely have a passion for what I do. And I think what's going to make us a little bit different than everybody else is we're actually going to hit the ground running, and we're going to meet these clients where they're at, right? And a lot of times, you hear that you're going to meet a client where they're at, but I'm talking about really meeting where they're at. If we have to go to the creeks, we're going to meet them there. If we have to go to the hospitals, we're going to meet them there. Wherever it is that we're needed at that time, that's where we want to be. We want to have a 24-hour shift per se, and have somebody on call 24 hours a day where they can actually meet this client where they're at. I think it's important, because if we don't catch them at that moment, then we're not going to catch them at all. We can't wait for them to come to us, because that may never happen. I worked in around a population that was, a lot of drug substance use, and I actually went to their neighborhood, and I did a meeting in their neighborhood, and one of them came to me and told me, you know what, Michael, if you would have never came to us, we would have never came to you. That speaks volumes to me, right? So that tells me that, we need to get out there. We need to make this stuff happen, because, again, if we don't, then who is, right? And I think, just based on, what's been happening here in San Benito County, it's huge. It is a small county, and for the number of patients, I say, or individuals that have been overdosing, I mean, that's a large amount of people, and now it's hitting the younger population. I just had a client of mine that was a client of mine. He actually said a 5th grader actually went up to him and asked him for some pills. Right, so now we're talking about elementary school, guys. Like, it's real, it's here, and that's kind of been my fight since I've been here. It's kind of like, we need to be aware of this, because it's real and it's killing our kids.
Thank you. Councilmember Resendez?
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. I appreciate you coming out here and submitting your proposal. And I'm very sorry to hear about your niece. My sincere condolences to you and your family. I do have some questions and some concerns. I'm just wondering, you guys are relatively new from what I've seen, and I'm just wondering what experience, if any, do you have in addressing the fentanyl? Is it I'm sorry, what's the proper terminology for that? Fentanyl? Oh, let's just call it a crisis, I would say. What experience do you have here in our community addressing fentanyl issues?
So my career in substance abuse started in Monterey County. I was the executive director of Valley Health Associates. It's an opioid treatment program, treating those adults and youth who struggle or diagnosed with a substance use disorder. During my time there, I've launched several programs, including an outpatient, a mobile clinic, in which we partnered with behavioral health, and we brought medication-assisted treatment out here. So I've been part of San Benito County's behavioral health and substance abuse programs for about 5 years. I was recently recruited out here and then decided to venture out into my own nonprofit after the passing of my niece. And knowing that being here and working here and with the partners and the stakeholders know firsthand what we need to be bridge builders and really do the work on the ground. And like Michael said, they're not going to come to us. I have a master's in public administration, a bachelor's in organizational leadership, tons of training in CBT, MI, motivational interviewing to treat the youth. However, my role in this will be administrative aspects of things, and Michael will take over the clinical during the startup until we grow and expand services.
Thank you. And then what, as far as deliverables go, like, what, can you just summarize, what is it that you're going to do with the $65,000 to help address the fentanyl crisis here in our community?
So the budgets I sent were a couple options. One is $164,000 is for an entire year of bare minimum programming. Some ideas that meeting with stakeholders, probation, Hollister PD, and our work that we've done here with other CBOs. That was that main budget. But in anticipation for if you guys asked me what the $65,000 was, I prepared another budget if you guys would like to take a look at that. I passed it around. I have it on my phone. So really the $65,000 is for startups. So the $65,000 will cover all administration. Let me just pull it up on my phone. So we have licensing with DHCS. So currently right now, we're going to launch the prevention is why we need community and stakeholder support. It's because prevention is not billable. It's not a reimbursement modality, if you will, compensated by state or private insurances. So prevention, education, and needs to be funded elsewhere. So the $5,000 is for GHC licensing, so we can grow services and go into treatment, outpatient IOP. Your county, San Benito County, is a DMC ODS waivered county by DHCS, and so there's legal, requirements that the county has to provide every level of care. Currently, we're missing roughly 80% of those levels of care. Operational insurances, being that we are going to be treating youth, it's a little bit higher than a normal nonprofit would have. You have liability, directors and offices, commercial, and then there's a special one for youth in the event, God forbid, something should happen. There's an extra liability. I think it's a $3 million policy. Print materials, everything from utilities, financial equipment, office supplies, everything you need for a legal review. A big part of the legal review team is policies, procedures, manuals, HR, making sure that we're in legal HR, California state law, and that we're not doing anything illegal in running our business. And then subscriptions, QuickBooks, financing, those kind of SAMS.gov, those federal agencies as a provider we need to be part of.
Thank you. So it sounds like to me, from what you just told me, that the monies is going to be used to help you guys start up and get a lot of things in that you need administratively in order to start up. Is that correct in my assumption?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much for answering my questions. I appreciate you again being here.
Thank you.
I've got a couple more comments, but I'll wait till we hear from public comment. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. So I too have some questions. Mr. Resendez asked a couple of them in a roundabout way. So where are you physically located currently?
Currently, we have, we're waiting on the building for Epicenter to have office space there. We have the business registered out of our home as a home business. We have an addition to the house that's lobby, private entrance, counseling room, so it's there for now until we find something else. But remember, prevention's and outreach, they're not coming to us. That's just for the formality. We want to meet them where they're at.
Sure, and I appreciate that very much. I noticed in this budget that you gave us a breakdown, I didn't see anything, at least in a quick read, that talks about rent, and I didn't see anything that talks about paying yourselves. Are you just going to do this for free, or?
So Michael and I, go ahead.
So I think, this was kind of just for the startup cost, right? Becoming the new fiscal year, we have actually applied for several grants, and we expect that money to come through the new fiscal year. So when that happens, then we're going to go ahead and be able to pay ourselves. This primarily is going to be for what we're going to need to start the program. So when we are able to get that license in a few months, given the time, then we're going to hit the pavement running.
Okay, yeah, you answered, one of my questions was, is this funding seed money? Sounds like that would be a yes.
Yes.
And if you originally wanted, I don't know if wanted is the right word, but your initial forecast was, I think you said 164,000. What's the difference between this and that minus $100,000? What's that $100,000? What are we not getting for the $100,000 we're not paying?
We're not getting paychecks. Everything that we've done has been on a volunteer basis on our own time. We've put a lot of work into it, and so, I mean, for me, and I know Michael, it's more of a passion to be here and know that it'll come. But so that's what's missing is our.
So what's that missing is actually myself to be out there, doing the work, of course, and then a peer specialist, right? A peer specialist is something that's needed in the modality. It's another modality of treatment that's needed. That's not here. Again, when you look at the ODS waiver, that's something that's actually should be implemented, and we don't have it here. Being that Amy and I actually have started a youth program in the past, so I think she forgot to mention that we started a youth program in Monterey County, and it's a sustainable program till today. So with that, we had all these different modalities of treatment, and what a peer specialist does is he actually does the continuum of care. So instead of kind of letting the patient out of treatment and just saying, okay, well, you're done, that's not how it's supposed to work. The way it's supposed to work is there's another component to which is called recovery services, and that person can stay in that for 10 to 20 years if they like.
Okay, so as you roll this out, is this gonna be a full-time job, career for you, or are you gonna work doing something to sustain yourself?
So I think right now, of course, we have to have a full-time job, right? I mean, that's a given.
I get
However,
it.
once this happens, and once we get the funding that we're expecting, then it's going to become a full-time job. Absolutely, there's not going to be any room for any other job.
I think initially, being Michael's clinical, he needs to be the one that's out, meeting people, stakeholder relationships, building it up, and I can do the admin. I mean, that's what I'm comfortable with that. I can do it until he's up and going, and then gradually on board as the need arises.
Okay.
But yes, that would be the idea, is to do what we were doing there here in a capacity, but we're going to have to grow that.
So since you have a plan, and you're asking for $100,000 less, how are you going to bridge that gap between what you need and what you're willing to ask for? Do you have any other funding streams, any other mechanisms? I think I heard you say something about grants.
Well, we submitted 3 grants, so that's waiting, but as you all know, you can't depend on grants. But there are 2 partners specifically. We have several partner MOUs, contracts in negotiation, once we, get the admin part of, and so they're super excited to be part of it, but I don't, one of them is Youth Alliance. They just got a grant for opioid money. Michael's been working with Youth Alliance to partner and bring training and education to the high schools. And then another potential partner is Juvenile Justice, been working with Chief Frontella and coming up with an agreement of how we can use the boots on the ground model in probation. Michael's worked with probation and alternative ed here already, so we've already doing the work, just at a different capacity. So Juvenile Justice and is excited to have Michael part of that as well. And then as the money start coming in is when we'll start bringing in more staff. We anticipate it's going to be more than a 2-3 person job, that will really have a counselor at each school throughout the county.
Okay. So do you guys actually have a formal business plan that we could gain access to, or?
The strategic plan, so we have, not a formalized one. We've been working with our board of directors. We have a healthy board of directors that's very involved. And then we're working with a consultant that's donated her time from a multi-billion-dollar place in Vegas. She's doing strategic planning with us in grant writing and just the formalities of the business plan.
Okay. So if I thought, I think I heard you correctly, no percent of this initial $65,000, if the council votes to approve it, would be used for administrative costs whatsoever. Is that correct?
For
Yes.
employee,
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
Let me just, the only thing, I even took out the health and benefits, I believe, from this one. Yeah, I took out everything that would be going towards an employed staff member.
Okay. Council Member Resendez hit on this, but maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. But how are you guys going to measure your success of the program? what are your performance metrics measures, and how are you going to determine, in my mind, if you save one life, you've been successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So we're actually going to keep stats, and that's something that we would like to do is, maybe come back in a few months, after we're up and running, just to show what we've done and what we've accomplished. I mean, I think that's super important, especially for a funder. So, that's our plan from the beginning is to, keep stats.
And additionally, we've been part of the opioid task force. They're one of our partners as well here in San Benito County. And they're working with us in their data collection and using their software to report out on on the opioid task force website. So public health has been has agreed to work with us in continuing data collection.
Okay, that's kind of a nice segue into my next question. Can you define for me what your relationships are currently with our police department, our sheriff's office, the courts, parole, and probation?
So probation, we've been in talks with probation. We've had a couple of Zoom meetings already where, there was a mention of possible partnership. I've actually spoken to the school, like Amy mentioned, I was been working at the continuation school, so I built a pretty good relationship with the principals there and teachers there and stuff like that. And opioid task force is another one. And the police department, I've actually had the opportunity to work with the police officer for the SAFE program, through behavioral health. However, I built a pretty good relationship with this police officer, and I'm hoping to be able to. Haven't really brought it to her attention yet as far as wanting to do this, but it was working really great until I was kind of pulled out.
So the program deliverables are based on our meetings with stakeholders and providers of how, what in their opinion, how could we best serve them? Remember, this is a startup, so it's pretty flexible to meet the community's needs. And these were things that they discussed as having a strike team, working with Hollister PD, or having a substance abuse, professional on the SAFE team to respond to overdose events, working with EMS. A lot of these came from, school settings, from alternative ed. So these are all what the city of Hollister stakeholders believe. And so it's really, we can make this in the future.
Okay. On page 3 of your presentation, packet page 164 for council, says the targeted demographic of participants is moderate to high-risk youth already supervised by juvenile justice, the LGBTQI+, and other vulnerable youth throughout the community. That concerns me a little bit because it sounds like these are people that are already in our system. And I don't know what the demographics were for the victims of overdoses, but I'm not convinced that they'd all already be in the system. And so if you could explain that more for me, that would be helpful.
Sure, that was just referring to juvenile justice and vulnerable patients or clients. Youth implies everybody, anybody that's age 12 to 18, and then transitional age youth 18 to 24. So meeting with the schools, so youth and juvenile justice youth, what paragraph are you referencing?
It was the very last paragraph on page 3 of your presentation. It starts with Youth Recovery Connections proposes a project that is multifaceted.
Right, so maybe it's just worded, that wasn't our intention. The intention is when working with juvenile justice and vulnerable youth, those would be the way we would identify them. Non-juvenile justice or vulnerable youth, we could identify them as high risk or soon or at risk for being high risk, if you will, based on the community or based on the school. Alternative ed, if they have possessions on campus, under the influence on campus, is their first time offender. Like a lot of these are happening, and so there would be a referral base for that.
So I think the most important thing here is just the collaboration. I think that's what kind of this means a little bit more is the collaboration between ourselves and the police department and everybody else that's, behavioral health and everybody else that's kind of treating these patients as they are, right? And I see that because, they're going to be the ones that have the data right now at this point, right? We don't have that data, but they are going, and the idea of meeting them where they're at, that means the assessment, right? Mm-hmm. That's how we're going to determine whether this client is at a high risk or not. Without the assessment, we're not going to know whether, who this client is or what they are, or what they're doing, right? So once we can conduct this assessment on site, then we're going to be able to know, just not involved with this system here, but with every system, we're going to be able to recognize whether this client is at a high risk or at a minimum risk for continued use.
Okay.
I think another important thing to make mention is, yes, the drug epidemic and overdose and all that is real, but it's not just drug prevention. I want it to be, or we envision it to be, a universal prevention. Is it gang prevention, human sex trafficking prevention, mental health? Like, what can we do to treat or address prevention as a whole, not just drugs? So it's a multifaceted program.
I couldn't argue with you. I think that makes perfect sense to me. I think the money is not nearly enough. You talk about boots on the ground on the next page, and it says deploy a team of 2 addiction professionals, a counselor and a peer support specialist. At what point are you proposing to do that? I mean, honestly, it just seems like you're going to be so under budgeted, and to assume that you're going to take no money to do this, well, God bless you. but I don't know that you're going to find 2 other willing people to do that without being paid.
So the 2 people that are going to be doing that is myself, and we already have a peer specialist that's willing to join the team and do that with me. So the boots on the ground, it means exactly that. You know, we want to hit the pavement running, like I said. So this is right here is going to take us to the fiscal year, and we're anticipating, getting some grant money that's going to take us to where we want to be at that point. It's unfortunate, but I mean, you need money to make things happen, and I get that, right? And so right now it's kind of like, we're kind of doing what we can, and hopefully, we'll be able to get this, and come the new fiscal year, then we can go ahead and start the program and get the boots on the ground going.
Too, I think, being that I've been part of board meetings, I've been on boards, my vision was to ask for too much, and then, you know what I mean? So do the 3 months, come back, present, this is what our findings were, this is what the assessment, the community needs assessment says, and if needed, we ask for more, or, okay, now it's time to hire a staff member, whatnot. So this is just to get us through June 30, and then.
Okay, so we're talking really about $65,000 for 3 months.
Yes.
What happens what's plan B if none of this comes to fruition?
Well, we already have, we're just in the final stages of juvenile justice and Youth Alliance. So that what funding we get will determine what deliverables we're able to do. Youth Alliance funds one deliverable, juvenile justice funds another deliverable. So that's how prevention works.
Okay, and so if we as a council decided to grant or award this contract to you, bless you.
Thank you.
Does the $65,000 trigger opportunities for other funding that would otherwise not necessarily be available?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. So some of these last till, but like for instance, the policies or the operational insurances, like we pay that a month at a time. DHCS is, it's not a month, a year at a time. DHCS licensing is a year at a time. So a lot of these, we don't have an option to pay month to month. It's a year. And then, so that'll make the next, the fiscal year's budget lesser, if you will, because all those would have already been paid.
Okay. Have you guys spoken with either the city of San Juan Bautista or the county of San Benito?
San Benito County, yes. We're actually going through the Board of Supervisors for that and helping them, but that's still in its infancy stage, so I don't want to really promise too much, but there's a lot of stakeholders that are super supportive, and the county, San Benito County has prevention money as well that is looking to contract out with the provider.
Well, I'm sorry for putting you under the microscope and the magnifying glass, but thank you for your answers. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your commitment to our community. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other comments from council? Go ahead, Mr. Perez.
So I heard that Amy's going to be doing pretty easy for administrative. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about what you do? Because you're the point of contact with the client, correct?
Yes.
See?
So my history comes from pretty much the same background as Amy's. I've actually worked with medication-assisted treatment for several years now. I'm familiar with all medications. I'm familiar with the opioid epidemic. I'm familiar with fentanyl. I'm pretty much familiar with all of that. Like I said, I've worked in the MAT program, NTP program for about 4 or 5 years now. So we actually created a policy for adolescents that to use medication to help them with their opioid addiction. So we've actually done a whole lot in regards to this population. So part of what I do is I actually, again, meet the client where they're at. I like to say I'm blessed. I don't know which other way to say it. I've been able to build a really good rapport with every patient that I've been in contact with. I've been able to kind of, assist them along their way and get to a better place in life. And I am them. I am these children, so to me, that's where my passion comes from. I absolutely am them. And that's why I don't let up, when it comes to children. I can't, unfortunately, they didn't have these type of programs when I was younger. So, my life kind of went astray and, a lot of bad things came from that. So part of that is my passion, of where I come from. And I, like I said, I feel like I've been blessed. I've been the one that's primarily been treated adolescents in every program that I've been to. Again, like I mentioned, we have to start up we started a youth program in Monterey County. So the question to that is I do everything in regards to assessments, treatment plans, individual counseling, family counseling, case management. The list goes on and on.
So let me see if I had these numbers right. So last year there was 35 overdoses, 17 in the last 3 months, 5 in the last week. That's a lot. I commend you guys for your passion for our youth, and so this 65,000 is going to get you guys your administrative cost. What does it take? So if we get the administrative cost, what good is that if you're not out there? So how is the 164 is enough to get you out there, and if it is, for how long? And
The 164 would fund what's in the proposal. And their work as a peer support, I would be on as admin until we've hired somebody or, gained additional funding. I think what's important too is not with our professional experiences, but across the nation. We have contacts that are writing policies for us, helping us from Boston's Children's Hospital in modeling what they do out there. We went to Boston a couple years ago and got to go to the hospital and see how they did medication-assisted treatment with youth, all the way to UCLA. We've had strong partnerships with UCLA. They come out and they do our trainings and, community-based assessments, whatever we need. So we have really strong partnerships to bring here to this community as well.
So
The 164 would get Michael on the ground, starting the work immediately.
So 164 would put Michael out there.
And a peer specialist.
And a peer, yeah.
And a peer specialist?
Yes.
And that would be, so then you would have your strike team in effect. Because, this is more of a comment, because I have a family member that has the benefit of being part of that strike team, a client of your strike team, and is doing so much better. And I know with recovery, having my own background from it, that there is only a window of opportunity that's open for so long, and then it's shut. And later on, it might come open, but it's really smaller and smaller and smaller. And so that's probably the main reason that I support this, because you guys are getting out there, and if that window's not open when you get there, because actually during an overdose, that's when the biggest window's open, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So and when you get in there as a strike team and do that, that's huge. That's so huge, and so I applaud you for that. I support this. I too think that 65 is, basically, what 65 to get your paperwork and get you a laptop, but how do we get you to get out there? And if 164 is the number, I think we strongly should think about that, raising that number up. What other questions did I have? Earlier you said something about IOP. You said a lot of acronyms.
Sorry. Go ahead, Michael. You can talk about
So it's intensive outpatient. Again, if we're talking about the ODS waiver, this is kind of the modalities of treatment that we need to have in the county in order to, to obligate this waiver, right? And one of them is the intensive outpatient. So if this was the perfect world, it kind of goes in steps. The tool that we use is called an assessment, an ASAM assessment, American Society of Addiction Medicine. With this assessment, what we do is we kind of evaluate and find out where they're at, right? The severity of their mental health or substance use. So that depends on, again, different modalities of treatment. You have a 3.5, which is medically medical residential for those that are kind of suffering with the dual diagnosis, mental health and substance use. You have a 3.1, which is a residential program. You have a 2.1, which is an intensive outpatient. You have level 1, which is an outpatient, and then you have recovery services. That's kind of the step down. That's how this works. So if we have a patient that's coming in, we do this assessment, and that's when we determine, where their needs are going to be and where they need to be met.
Last question. Can you speak to your experience with working with the high school?
So I started I came here about 6 months ago. I got recruited as well to help start the youth program. From my understanding, that's the reason why I came here. Matter of fact, I live in Hollister, and I had heard that there was no services for kids. So that hurt my heart, and I have nephews here, and I have nieces here, and so I decided to come down here and help build this program. When I got to behavioral health, there was 0 clients there. I actually left behavioral health about a week and a half ago. I was up to 35 clients, and I did that in about 5 months, in a 5-month period. So my relationship with the schools is excellent. I mean, I've definitely built a good rapport with everybody there. And again, like I said, I feel like I'm blessed. I don't know how else to say it. I'm able to kind of treat these kids and meet them where they're at, and they're able to understand me, and I'm able to understand them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to just, so first of all, I want to say thank you for coming. Thank you for providing a solution. I'm going to speak to process, strategy, solution, partnerships, and then future funding, because this isn't only the city of Hollister's issue. It's going to be a collaborative issue. It's going to have to be a community solution. So none of these comments are towards you. So please know that. So first, thank you, Brett, for bringing the solution forward. Really appreciate it. I think in the future, what I like to see is an assessment of like our county, and not necessarily the county, but more the city of Hollister, because that's what we were looking for. And I know it's not limited to the city of Hollister, but our funds are for the city of Hollister. So in the future, I'd like to see kind of an assessment of who's providing services, who are the stakeholders, what are some other solutions, what are the evidence-based practices, what is currently in place, this opioid task force, who are the members, what are some of the recommendations that they brought forward. I'd like to also get input from fire and from police, because they're our first responders, and they're the ones that are at the scene, and they're seeing in terms of the support, whether they want to be able to work with someone, if they have input in terms of who they want to work with, who they're calling right now. What are the gaps? Like in certain jurisdictions, we know, like in probation, when they're released, we know that the first 30 days are essential. Same thing with substance abuse. We know that there's these windows that we have time. And so in order to be able to provide not only the funding, but the infrastructure support that is needed in order to actually make sure that you're successful and that we're successful.
Absolutely.
Second, it would have been great to see your proposed outline in terms of just, are we paying for administrative costs, and no services, or services equals this, and then this is what we're getting. In your proposal, it states that this is going to provide services to the county. Great, but I would like to, for whatever money the city provides, for that to be, the focus for that to be the city.
Okay.
And in particular, focus and collaboration to be with the fire department and our police department, and potentially our Parks and Recs department, because I'm pretty sure they're also a stakeholder in this. I think in addition, thank you for sharing your partnerships, whether it's you or whether it's our city manager or your new city city manager assistant position.
Assistant city manager.
$42 billion have just been released, and this is as of March 28th of 2022. So there's $42.5 billion that were going to be allocated. The agencies are going to be ONDCP. I know everybody loves acronyms, but that stands for the Office of National Drug Control Policy will be part of that. SAMHSA is another one. HHS is another one. That are going to be providing a lot of funding. DFC, HDT, A will be also providing a lot of funding. And in other jurisdictions, there are task force comprised of 15 members, including the district attorney's office, who are, in addition to doing that preventative work, sharing the potential harms of people who are distributing the drug and that what they could be charged for. So in looking at that continuum of care and a true comprehensive solution that involves the community and other stakeholders. Having said all that, I do support, and I'm also looking for options. This is one of many, but in terms of just overall process, overall moving forward, especially with funding, because 65 is not going to cut it. But, you know, while we're waiting for your other grants, we need to make sure that we create or be part of the path in order to acquire the necessary funding in order for us to have a solution with all the other organizations that really need to be at the table.
Would it be possible to consider the 165 or the 164 that we submitted and choose between the two? Or the council could vote?
Mayor, may I speak?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I think from my view, I really would prefer that this be a county-wide process. And for me, I think time is of the essence, but honestly, it sounds like if we gave you the 64, it really isn't going to get our boots on the ground. And for me, I would like to hear what San Juan Bautista proposes and San Benito County to see about rolling this out relatively quickly. But you know, I'm kind of struggling with that because, again, I recognize, you know, it's urgent. And so
Yes, so San Benito County, I think they're waiting for the new directors to come in before they can make any decisions on expenditures. That's my impression, and the Board of Supervisors was going to step in. But yes, I will take that to our planning committee.
thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I do have a couple comments and questions. As you pointed out, you're aware there is a task force currently to address this the issues that are happening in our community. And as you know, it's going through behavioral health and health and human services. And this type of a program has to go through those agencies first because the county is the arm of the state. The funding is coming through them specifically for these types of programs where they can monitor what's going on, the success, the measurables. And really the first step is building that partnership with behavioral health, be involved in their task force, and then working from that point to see how or if another program is needed and how they work together. Because it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, for the city to try to track a program like this to measure its success. You're a new group, and great, you're doing it, but you really have to be using the tools that are out there right now. I know because I kept informed about these different programs that are going on, and that is where it starts because, you know, through those groups, they're going to identify different areas. For example, quite a few of those overdoses are from the homeless community that we've been trying to get into some type of treatment into the shelter, but many of those have refused. And I do know several of those people that actually had overdose recently. So the starting point would be through the county because, again, that is the agency, the arm of the state. That's the funding is coming through those channels. It's difficult for a city to just take money from their general fund to try to start programs and not be able to monitor their success or their failures. And it would be almost irresponsible of us to try to do something like that without a proven track record first. So I would say, again, I would point you back to behavioral health, join that task force that is already out there to again, build that partnership. And then you can work with some of the other groups that can also provide grant funding from some of their sources for the youth. As you point out, Youth Alliance, once you have that going, there are plenty of grants out there for these types of programs. But it's important to start with an agency that is an expert in this and can make sure you guys are going down the right path on this because the last thing we need is to find out something's not working and not being able to account for funding down the road. So that's where I would point you to start first. Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Go
Savan
ahead.
Quesada?
The youth is our future. Why should we even question the idea of a budget 65,000? And we act like we're giving them millions. What ideas does a youth need? Guidance, leadership, direction, future, creativity, all these ideas that these two people here are coming with open arms, embracing the idea to come to the youth in a place that has nothing for them. I remember we had an arcade here before, a bowling alley. We don't even have any of that no more. And our youth, poor youth, because they are driving to the idea, look what they're doing in the high school and carrying when the pandemic happened. First ones to feed. They are awesome, and what are we doing for them? We have an empty building like Kmart. We have a youth, come on. Look at Mars Hill. How long has that building been empty when the Youth Alliance is in a corner and looks like a welfare office? Don't youth need windows? What's the idea? The Youth Alliance should be the #1 idea when it comes to our future, because they're the youth. The one matter that is important, just like we all are right here. I'm so excited to be here right now. I almost didn't, I could see though. But I want to say really, really from my heart, thank you so much. Makes me want to say hallelujah. Because you are here, you're present, and you're doing it, and every matter that matters, believe me, once you get your boots suited, others will come and cash out. Because our youth needs it. And there's other people here that have children, and they want that too. And ain't nothing bringing more to their heart than helping out their child. Rest assured. Some parents go full length for them. It's such an honor to be here today, to have people like you that are representing to have our youth go to future. Because look at the kind of billboards we put in Hollister. Fentanyl. Do we really need to put fentanyl in the matters of when you're coming into our city? Why can't we put the word brave or bold or brilliant? Why fentanyl? It's killing our youth. Even if it kills one, that's too many. Because we all matter just like they do, but they're the most, because they're our future. Oh yeah, Roland, can you stop going by my friend's house and taking pictures of me? I thought that was really rude of you. That's your council member too.
I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll take it back to the council. Any other questions or comments?
Mayor Velasquez, Tim Burns.
Go ahead, Mr. Representative.
Thank you, Mayor. I heard what you said, Mayor, and I agree to a certain extent, but if there are already county programs, then just based on the numbers, I would have to say as a layperson, it appears like they're failing. And for me, I would have to give them an F based on the results. And so I'm supportive of you guys. And so I'm willing to go down there with you, but I'm not ready to commit right now. I would like some answers to some of the questions that were brought up, but no, in my mind, if you brought it back in 4 weeks from now with some more of the answers, some more of the direction, I will support you. I will tell you that right here, right now. And so I just would like more clarity on things that were brought up tonight, but no, you have my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So I've got to be completely honest, and number one, I just want to thank you for coming out, and I think the work you're doing is vital. It's critical to not only our community, but other communities. I don't think that it's in the city's best interest to spend public dollars to help start up nonprofits. I'll be honest. We've done this in the past before, and it led to a number of issues. And I thought we took a position to not do that. So I was surprised to see this up here, but I'm glad that you did come up here. I'm glad that I did learn about it more, but I do have a lot of concerns about this not necessarily addressing the fentanyl crisis as we were talking about. It seems like this is to start up a nonprofit to do the work, but I would like for you guys to go out there, be successful, and meanwhile, I would ask the city manager to look for something that's specifically addressing the needs of our community of an agency or nonprofit that specifically deals with fentanyl. So again, it's nothing personal against you guys. I do have a lot of reservations about spending $65,000 of the public funds on starting up a nonprofit. That's my only concern. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Thank you again for coming out here, but I cannot support this.
I have a comment.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Perez?
5 fentanyl overdoses in this last week. Those are the ones that are recorded through the police department, through the fire department, through the emergency room at the hospital. Could you imagine how many are not being reported? You know, mental health department. Wow. When being a single father, that was our sole source, my sole source in previous years when my son was a minor. And an F grade, that's being generous. Recently, so that was years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And having other family members that are in that system, it took them 6 weeks to get an assessment. Not to get medication, not to get treatment. 6 weeks. If you go, I've taken a neighbor in crisis mode, and unless they were going to claim that they were suicidal, they were going to give them an appointment for 4 weeks out. So when we talk about our county mental health department, I have addressed the county board of supervisors. I have addressed the mental health department / SUD, substance abuse department. I know that acronym. And you know what? They're doing the best they can. It's been a system that's been not working effectively for many years. And if people were, I'm involved with people. I talk to people. I talk to my neighbors. I talk to my neighbors' neighbors and their cousins. And this is not a rare occasion that my son has been treated this way. I'm just going to be totally honest. Okay, so my son was back. He was on he has an ADD. So we went through mental health. And something didn't work in there. Me being a single parent, I didn't know a lot. And having to juggle life, making the bacon, come home, cook it, do all that stuff. Hindsight's always 20/20. And now that I have a better view and a better way of expressing my concerns for my son, who's an adult now, you know what? For my son to go in there looking for help, and because of a rapid response person responding on a Friday night at 9:30 until 12, which mental health does not do that. Our mental health, it's you come back next week. Yeah, that's like calling suicide hotline and say, no, please hold. It's like, that doesn't work. They do their best, and and what they do, they're good at. But they're missing. I guess I have just a better view because I've been through it. My son's been through it, and I have a better view that that window of opportunity is huge. And so these services that we would like to think that our San Benito County Mental Health Department / SUD is addressing these issues. To some aspect, yes, but to the strike team, to the being open 24/7 for emergency calls, they're not there. You don't see a lot of fentanyl overdoses between 8 and 5. You know, you can't control the hours of an overdose. And you know what? Usually they come on the weekends, party times. You know, that's that.
What about the ones that are in the room alone, trying to commit suicide or something, and they need to go call somebody or be with somebody? It's not just about fentanyl. It's about being there for the youth. I'm not to be rude, but Rick, if you've been through this, you should jump on board.
So saving, it's my turn though.
I know, bro, come on.
Okay, so with that, you know what? 5 overdoses. Can you guys hear me? 5 overdoses in this last week, and you guys want to push it out for a month? Me? If 164 is going to get you on the boots tomorrow, as soon as you get the check, I'm totally in support for that. Because if we can save one life, I mean, because from my understanding, the 65, it only gets you the licensing and a piece of pad and a paper, or a pencil and pad. And you know what? And then you're going to be doing this on your time off of work. We're going to be burning you out. With that, it's like how much did we give the SNP bus? 54, 52?
Around that, 54, I believe.
And you know what? That's a great cause, because you know what? I'm not a cat person. You know, I'm a dog person. But you know what? It's a need that to keep the feral cats down, the population down. And we're going to worry about, yeah, you know what? I don't want to I am responsible, and I'm going to be held responsible and accountable to every dollar that I approve to spend. And $164,000 to even possibly save one life, I'll answer to anybody. I'll answer to my God when I die. That is a good choice, because because of your program and prevention, there's going to be numbers you can't even track. How many kids you got to go that way instead of going and getting overdosed. You know, so I'm in total support of this. Yes, I've had family members overdose. I've had neighbors overdose. You know, it's this is not like getting a street cleaner, a street sweeping vehicle or anything. We're talking about lives here. See, and we have nothing here. In fact, didn't you? From my understanding, there's only 2 organizations in the state that deal with youth and the fentanyl. Can you speak to that?
Sure.
So I think what you're pertaining to is the fact that there's 2 residential programs in the state of California that ODS waivered, meaning that anybody that has Medi-Cal, they cannot go to a treatment facility anywhere in the state of California because it's just not going to be paid for. So the way the ODS waiver works is that Medi-Cal pays for everything. As long as you meet criteria for any modality of treatment, then Medi-Cal will pay for every stay that you're there. That's for adolescents and adult alike. And in the state of California, there's only 2 residential programs. So it's kind of, we've actually been in talks with a gentleman out of Monterey County that was looking into bringing a residential program here to San Benito County. He has all the means to do so, and I just didn't want to really talk too premature on it. However, this is going to be brought under our umbrella as well. So there will be a residential coming here soon. And again, that residential will be ODS waivered. So that's not only going to help the youth in San Benito County, but it's going to help the youth in the whole region. Because like I said, there's only 2 in the state of California. That's where that's at. So I think to answer the question of Mr. Resendez and not meeting the fentanyl So that's exactly what we're doing, is bringing awareness, education, and bringing it to not only to the adolescents, but to the families as well. And even more importantly, to the Spanish speakers, right? They have no idea what's going on. They don't know. They come from Mexico. They have no idea. They can't read or write, English. They don't know what's going on. And they're confused. They just know that their son or daughter is in the room and they're throwing up. They're sick. They're sweating. They're going through all these, feelings, emotions, and they don't know what's happening. So they're taking them to the doctor. Okay, well, let's take you to the doctor and let's figure this out. Well, guess what? There's nothing wrong with them. Well, why is there anything wrong with them? Because there's not. We don't know what's wrong with them. Well, I could tell you what's wrong with them. They're withdrawing from fentanyl. That's what's happening, and for me, the thing about it is I want to bring that awareness, bring that education, not only to those who speak English, but to the Spanish population as well, because that to me is very, very important, and especially because we live in a rural area that's, our agriculture is huge around here, so that we're going to have those families, and I think it's important to be able to kind of give that education and awareness to them as well. So a lot of this is based towards fentanyl because it's killing our kids. Most of this is based towards fentanyl. As Amy mentioned, we do want to embark on different, as we seen last weekend, I think there was a gang shooting, and several adolescents or adults alike were shot and killed. So that's something else that we want to bring to the table. We want to bring the awareness for gang awareness, and we actually have a gang expert that's on the board, certified gang expert out of a prestige college, and he's willing to bring that as well to the table. So there's a lot of things that we want to do. Again, it's just somebody kind of believing in us, and that's just kind of where it's at. If we can have somebody that's willing to believe in us, and the work's going to be put in, and I know you're not going to take my word for it, but again, we're going to be collecting data the whole way through, and we're willing to come back in 3 months to show what we've done.
So if do I have a clear understanding? So you get 65, you get to go get certified in licensing, a pad and pencil and computers, whatever all your stuff that you need. That's no boots on the ground. The 100 plus, that gets you a boot on the ground and what you need to get going. And then, so you also, that's phase one. And so while you're doing that, because now you're licensed and certified, now you can go after the grants to help you. And you said something about a grant was for 3 years to help you get a sustainable stage?
There's several grants. There's a lot of money out there actually for treatment and infrastructure and prevention money through SAMHSA, but those are federal programs. So until we can get ourselves to the level where we can apply with the subscriptions that qualify us with the DUNS number, we just are legit with all that. We just have to apply for the grants. So we have a strategic plan starting off with prevention and going up from outpatient to IOP to eventually residential and meeting the community's needs. I personally and professionally think that we're all, both sides, at a unique position. With everything that's happening recently, to have the city be the first committed stakeholder and to really kick off everybody else's buy-in is huge, because everybody's waiting for the next person to be the first one.
Yes.
Everybody says that oh, that's great, we should do that, until their youth dies or their daughter dies. In the drug treatment field, we fight stigma all the time, and that's something we battle. And I really thought that with all the stigma training and everything we did, that the community's buy-in would be different. But until you've experienced it, until you have a loved one pass from it, until you're giving my sister Narcan to bring her out of an overdose, like, these things are real. And if you haven't experienced it, it's traumatic. You know what I mean? And 64,000 was just our way of giving the bare bones of what we could barely do to bring it here without, trying to be something, lavish. But I think it places the city in a great position to have them to be the first committed buy-in, and then everybody's gonna, like the gentleman said, everybody's waiting for the first person.
I do know what it's like to go to my kid's room, and on the way there, wondering, as I'm opening the door, is his chest going to be moving? I know that feeling. And let me tell you, out of all the feelings of going through parenthood, nothing compares to that. Nothing compares to that. So if we can save one kid, one youth, I'm totally for.
And what's unique is our perspective is different, from providing the service to family receiving the service to partnering and agencies and contracts. I've been part of this behavioral health system for 5 years, maybe a little bit more. I personally know and professionally know what works and what doesn't work. And I'm not trying, everybody's just doing the best they can, but there's gaps. And if we were getting it right the first time, there'd be no need for us to come in and build the bridges. And so we really need that time for startup to go to Hollister PD and figure out what it looks like to have a substance abuse professional on the SAFE team. Partner with, go to behavioral health, speak to the new director when he gets in, meet with the city council, meet with board of supervisors. Like, that takes time.
So they, on the SAFE team, there is no longer an SUD.
So part of, no, there's not. But I know that Ryan's there and Chief wanted to, but it was a
Behavioral mental health pulled it out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm going to stop with my questions, but I totally support you guys, and good luck with what you got going. Thank you.
Mayor Velasquez.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I've heard what you've said too, and this is a very painful conversation, candidly. So 65 is pretty much ministerial costs to get you rollout costs, but my sense is 165. Until you do this, you can't really have your boots on the ground anyway, can you?
Until we do 64?
Until you secure all the...
Correct.
Yeah, and so what's the real... If we said tonight, we'll give you the 65, what would it... How long would it take for you to roll out at that point?
July 1st.
Our plan in our strategic plan, start date would be July 1st. That would give us 3 months to get everything going.
Okay. So then we're talking in essence about another $100,000. So what? So I presume that would take you through the fiscal year. So 65 gets you roll out. Another 100 gets you through a year to provide services to our city. Is that a fair statement?
More, I would interpret it more as this would get us started. All it's needed after is full-time employee pay.
Okay, so, and again, I can't really get into that, but where I'm headed with this is, all right, so we give you the 65, that gets you the startup costs, the seed money, and then maybe we land on giving you $25,000 for the first quarter, and you come back in 3 months and you show us what you've done, and we either give you 75 at that point to get us through the remainder of the fiscal year, or we give you 25 incrementally, and that gives you some startup money, it gives you some money to pay yourselves, and it gives you time. In essence, you're buying time to generate the results that will give the council greater level of comfort. You've heard what Mr. Perez has said, you've heard what I've said, you've heard what Ms. Morales has said, the mayor and Mr. Resendez as well. And so for me, but I don't want to, the mayor was really clear. We do have responsibility to our community, and you came asking for 65, and so maybe we want to invest in you and your future, because your future is our future, which is our kids' future. And I understand that I've done some research on fentanyl and Narcan. I actually carry Narcan because you never know. Right. And so having said that, the reality is, though, I'm a results kind of guy. I need to see things. We've talked about a lot, but in essence, we've got like a 3-page proposal that you provided to us, and my sense is there's a whole lot more, but under the intention of being brief, this is what we've got. And I would like to see you get the grants. I would like to see San Benito County buy into this. And when I say San Benito County, frankly, I'm not terribly concerned about behavioral health, mental health. I'm really thinking about the sheriff's office. I'm really thinking about our local hospital, because anytime our public safety rolls to an event like this, their goal is to save a life, and that's what we want. But there's a cost to this community for that too. There's a cost for the PD, there's a cost for the fire department, there's a cost for AMR, and there are hospital expenses too. And if people can't afford those, they're still billed out, and they're either written off or they come from other sources. So for me, I'm willing to go there with you, like I said earlier, but I'm more of a phased approach guy. Show me what you can do, and then come back to me. And
all these voices are represented too in the opioid task force. They all have a seat at the table, so that's something I can go back to them and tell them we need letters of support or whatnot. I do like Michael's idea too of coming back in 3 months and presenting to you. what we have done if, with the 64,000, should you.
Right. And again, I'm open to more, because I want you out there as soon as possible, but I know you can't rush to it. You know, you just can't walk out the door and you're in business. And so for me, you know, like I said, the other question I had is, are one or both of you bilingual?
I am, yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Thanks again, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there a motion?
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the $64,000 and then for you to come back to provide us with not only the direct service delivery, including dosage model, the continuum of care, results in the marketing, your evaluation, design for the programming, and then the status of the various grants, and then for further consideration for partnership.
Councilmember Morales, the agenda said 65. I know you just said 64, but I just want to make sure that.
So also what's that? Is
65.
that including the 25?
No.
Or oh, it's true, okay.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I haven't finished my motion. I got interrupted, sorry.
Sorry.
This also, I'd like to see as an amendment to your proposal that you also consider doing either Medi-Cal enrollment or Covered California. We found that to be essential just for that, being able to enroll the youth into the appropriate treatment that is needed. So I'd like to see that to be added.
I'm sorry, one more time. Amended with Medi-Cal enrollment and.
Covered California?
Thank you, thank you.
Councilmember Morales, I'd like to propose a friendly amendment to also give them an additional $25,000 for compensation to actually get out and implement, to have this operational. And I presume that would take you operationally through, it's a good thing I didn't have to take my shoes off. Through October. And so that would then give you an opportunity to come back to us a couple weeks prior, maybe in September, and give us the results, the measurable results, the feel-good moments,
Okay.
and the hard facts. And then bring, you know, any entourage of the support staff that you've got. I want to celebrate this with you.
Awesome.
And so that would be my recommendation, friendly amendment.
I accept.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Resendez?
No.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Absolutely.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Definitely.
Mayor Velazquez?
No.
Motion carries 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Very
Thank
good.
you so much.
We'll make you proud.
Thank you. We'll now move to item F5.
Go save a life.
Thank you, Mayor. This agenda item will be for council to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign an amendment to the MOU with San Juan Bautista that will allow the San Juan Bautista to connect to our wastewater treatment plant approximately, 1 year after to allow them to connect to our wastewater project. And what it will be is that they will have their water line from the San Benito County Water District approximately 1 year later, or at least before December 2024.
Thank you. Any questions?
So
Do we have
basically,
any
just
speaker
allowing them
cards?
some additional time.
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Resendez?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Yes.
Mayor Velazquez?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now go to item F.
F6. Thank you. This item is for approval of the temporary closure of 6th Street for the Hollister Downtown Association's Farmers Market. And we have Omar here to speak on that. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much, City Council here. So the HDA is asking to see if we can have the 6th Street and so 78th Street over on 6th Street and East closed for our annual farmers market. The farmers market has been around since 1987, and the Hollister Downtown Association took it on back in 2004. This year we propose to have our farmers over on the public lot, parking lot, and then our hot food vendors over on the concrete slab that we've secured. We are also going to have informational booth and other things over on 6th Street. So it'll be kind of the similar layout that we had last year. We're just going to be tweaking some things around, making sure that there's a lot more cleanliness this time around as we go along as well. And then we're also trying to identify if we can find additional parking for the businesses, the downtown businesses that are affected because the public lot will not be utilized. So we're just trying to see if we can get that approved. Sorry, question? Sorry, that's all I have.
Any questions from council?
I do have a question. So over there on 6th Street, where the restaurant used to be that burnt down?
Yes.
There's a couple of lips there. I wonder, is that something that the city can address, or is that the private, that's the private property
If the
owner?
lips on the private property, then it's the responsibility of the person that owns that property to fix it.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that every year. I love the farmer's market. It's great. But I see people tripping and stumbling over that. I was wondering maybe we can talk to them to see if they can.
I can reach out to the owners of the property. I don't know if there's any plans right now for that. There were in talks about maybe selling the property or renting it out, but at this point in time, they're
pretty much
yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we can look into putting something underneath. The idea would be that we'll have, the food vendors around and have those picnic tables in that middle of that area again. So maybe that might prevent some of that as we go along.
Just cover them up. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then if we get, the San Benito Health Foundation bus out there to maybe provide the COVID vaccines like we did last time, or, that would take up another chunk of that area as well. So we're definitely looking into improving it.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any motion?
So moved.
Second.
With a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Resendez?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Definitely.
Mayor Velazquez?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Omar. Move to item G1, reports from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Burns?
I have nothing to report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Resendez?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Perez?
Nothing to report.
Member Morales?
Nothing to report. I'm looking forward to information on the library committee that we got appointed to.
Thank you. I have nothing to report either. We'll move now. Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Mayor. I have plenty to report in this case. Grab a cup of coffee, sir.
If I go take my dinner break, I'll be back.
Okay. You got me stuttering. Thanks. So I would like to ask council for a consensus to raise the thin blue line flag. It's National Police Week May 11th through the 17th. However, there are other events going on nationally, so I'd like to raise a thin blue line flag from May 11th through the 21st, if council will support that. And then let me talk about a couple different things I've got going on here. So I want to talk about our code of conduct ordinance, and I did have an opportunity to read an article written, and it references a David Loy, who's an attorney for the First Amendment Coalition for the city of, or in the city of San Diego. But I also know that he was previously associated with the Center for Justice out of Spokane, Washington. I had a lot of really good interaction with the Center for Justice in Spokane, Washington when I was up there as a police ombudsman. And so I'm not convinced that he doesn't have his own bias. I mean, clearly, you can ask 5 lawyers and you'll get 5 different legal opinions, and doesn't mean any of them are right or wrong. But I do, and would also ask this council to consider having a second opinion done. I respect Mr. Epperson and what his opinion was to us, and I trust that he wouldn't let us put something out there that was not constitutional. But I would like to get a second opinion, if that was the will of the council, to make sure that any parts of it that might be construed as unconstitutional be thoroughly vetted. And I want to note that under Hollister Municipal Code Section 1.04.050 talks about severability of parts of the code, and it says, it's declared to be the intention of the city council that the sections, paragraphs, sentences, clauses, and phrases of this code are severable, and if any phrase, clause, sentence, paragraph, or section of this code shall be declared unconstitutional by a valid judgment or decree of a court of competent jurisdiction, such unconstitutionality shall not affect any of the remaining phrases, clauses, sentences, and paragraphs and sections of this code. So even if there is a part that maybe we could have written better, smarter, or not put in there, I don't think it, based on my interpretation as a layperson, I don't think that really creates a major consequence for us. But I have heard a lot of expressed concern, and I would like to err on the side of caution. So I'm hoping that as a council we will decide to have another look at that with no disrespect to our legal counsel, Mr. Epperson. Also, I would like to get an update from our city manager on the status of recruitment for either a deputy or assistant city manager. I also would like to suggest to this council, I proposed it something similar at my last council meeting, that we rename Union Avenue as Cesar Chavez Way. And I also know that we're building a park directly behind the fire station. And so again, I would like to advocate that we not only name the street, but we name that new park that's going to be developed, that we just got, as I recall, some significant grant money to move forward. Also aware or of the understanding that Bulldog Boxing is about $18,000 underfunded to finish their building. And I would like to ask this council for consensus to give Bulldog Boxing the $18,000. I don't know that they're a nonprofit, but I do know that they've done amazing work, and they've probably saved a lot of people from going down the wrong path. I know at one time my one son actually went there and boxed a little bit, but that's been probably 25 years ago. And so I have no contact with him, no direct involvement with him. I've not been there, but it seems like it would be a good investment of our resources. I know that we've got the ARP money, and to me that would be a good investment in our future of our community. And so I want to propose that as well. I had the opportunity after our last council meeting to be on social media, and I happened to notice that the city of Salinas actually puts out after the meeting a notification of what the council's previous actions were. I did have a previous conversation with our city clerk. She's done some research, so I would like for her to brief this council on what her findings were, to see if it makes some value to do something like. I think a lot of our people don't have the time to come to the meetings, but I think it'd be a great way for them to stay current and then, you know, come and voice their concerns or their support where necessary. I'm about halfway there, Council, and so thank you for your patience. I would also like to propose from this council, or to this council, that we install cameras on all of our gateways, our major streets, in proximity to our schools, our parks, and our enclosed neighborhoods, have limited entrance access like Sunny Slope Village and Serrato Estates. We've seen the direct benefit of that recently, and so for me, I think, you know, it's priceless, and I could see that coming out of the ARP monies, and so I would like to do that. You know, it doesn't matter how nice the homes are, it doesn't matter how great the people are, if it's not a safe community, then there's a challenge there, and I think now's the time to invest in those cameras. I'd also like to see the police department come up with maybe some safe zones where we could install additional cameras and sound lighting to conduct child custody exchanges and internet transactions, whether it be an auto sale or some other thing that you're going to buy on the internet to ensure people are safe. I'm almost there. This last week we had a real challenge that I became aware of substandard housing that happened at 740 Canal Alley, as I understand it, and so I have zero tolerance for substandard housing. I would like to have our code enforcement officer or officers do a presentation of that specific incident to council. And I would like to see the past statistics for substandard housing that is significant, because ultimately I think this council may need to really consider moving forward to create a rental housing inspection program, and also, if they're not already required to have business licenses, to require that as well. And then the final thing I want to bring up is I'd like to get a report from our city council clerk, our city clerk, about the deputy city clerk recruitment process. And so finally, I would like to ask that we close this evening's meeting in the memory of Jesus Gomez and Daniel Gonzalez. Thank you for your patience, Council. I know I've been long-winded, but these are things I think are critical, and I hope that you have a similar mindset. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Resendez?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Perez?
Not much to report on. The flag raising ceremony yesterday was really turned out really awesome. Wanted to thank the city staff for blocking off the roads, and of course Christine Black for coming in on those days to catch up on her work and listen to some good music, and thank the community for showing up. But the totally in consensus with the cameras closing in the memory of our two shooting victims, and how they were not gang members, they were shooting victims. And there'll be something else I can remember later. You know, there's two things I've come to realize when you get to be my age that are important in life. I just can't remember what they are. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Morales?
So I'm in agreement that we should close in the memory of Jaime Gomez and Daniel Gonzalez, the victims. And I also like to see, whether we have this or not, I'm not familiar, but intelligence on what's happening in the community. I'd like to hear from our police in terms of trends that are happening in the community. I've seen in other places where there's reports, 90% of fire or police, is seeing issues of code enforcement. 80% of them are smash and grabs. 10% of them have to do with vehicle thefts. And so a report so that as issues are coming to the community, we're actively problem solving and looking at partnerships to be able to have a community solution. So I have night market follow-up, and the follow-up request is to bring back the municipal code to be able to allow food trucks in particular areas that may or may not be zoned, and and what appropriate areas there are to be able to have food trucks. So I know that there's a couple of desired areas, but would like council to consider that. We've had a request to be able to bring that, and thank you, Brad, for helping me identify a solution that council could consider. Recently, we had an issue with shopping carts. These are the carts that are utilized by Target, Safeway, Grocery Outlet, Lucky's. Concerns about the ordinance. One of the businesses shared that in 2016 they paid $26,000 in fines, that it is really difficult for them when they are removed from their facilities, whether it be by homeless or for people just to take their groceries home and then leave them out. It's very difficult to have service in Hollister just because people just don't want to be able to do that. And so I like to bring that back for possible solution or consideration, or just to review the ordinance. And I had the opportunity to review the ordinance today. Thank you, Christine, for sending that out to council. I also did hear from several businesses about the rally. So while, that decision's been made, I do want to be able to have a work group start looking at next year and potentially other alternatives, such as Apricot Festival, or looking at amplifying or highlighting our wineries in the region, and have potentially like wine tours or tickets like at other jurisdictions. I'd like to also get a list, and I think I might have requested this before, a list of the outstanding permits that are over 6 months and the status of those. Term limits is something that I like to be able to have brought back for discussion. I know we talked about it, but want to know a date certain on that. I concur with the bringing back the code of conduct to have that reviewed. I'm also very concerned about that. Also, if we can get a status report or a list of the pending projects for the, what are they called? Safety bumps? Speed cushions, thank you. Also want to follow up on the council pay. And I'm in agreement with naming the street and the park Cesar Chavez. And I'm also in agreement with funding for Bulldog Boxing of $18,000. I like to just round it up for 20. Thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing. City Manager?
Okay, I've got 2 pages here, so. Do we have a consensus on the flying the thin blue line flag from May 11th to the 21st?
So it's just a real quick question. I totally support it. Why only the 11th to the 21st? What else is going on?
Well, the 11th through the 17th is National Police Week, and the chief indicated to me there are some other events that actually happen up into and through the 21st.
Okay.
So I'd be open to flying it the whole month if council would prefer to do that as well.
I'm in support of any flag going up, as long as it's fair and balanced. That's what I'm tell my opinion. But yeah, so you have a consensus.
Yeah. Well, at 2, 3 there. Thank you. Code of conduct, I believe I had 2 so far. I just wanted to see. Just so the status of the assistant city manager, we are going through the, at the end of this, next week is when we get the different proposals for the request for proposals for the head hunting services. So we'll get that, and then we'll move it real quick. And then just so the council knows, and I'm Tina would be mad at me if I didn't bring this up. So for naming of a parks, that usually starts with the Park and Rec Committee, and then they go through that process, but we can start that.
Okay.
Then Bulldog Boxing, the contribution of 18,000, or I heard a different, 20,000? Okay, sorry. Sorry, I was writing very quick and I thought I did hear something change, so, okay. Oops, sorry, I'll get that marked. We'll get, worked with the city clerk to get the notice of the previous council actions up to council. Do we have a consensus for the cameras at all access? One, two.
You know,
I just kind of summed that up.
Yeah, I mean, I support it. I would actually maybe like to refer that to the police department. I'm going to trust in their judgment, but I personally, I don't think we could put them up any quicker.
Right, okay.
You know?
Yeah, and I would just say, our IT, we have to kind of look at the server capacity and things like that, but we'll come back with a plan.
When that comes back, can we also talk about the privacy? There's a whole privacy aspect to it that I'd like to see that be considered and folding in terms of the laws and the various aspects of what needs to, in terms of government and policy.
And I just wanted to add to, the ability to extend the network where we need to for those cameras to function correctly. We're almost at capacity where we're at now as far as the current network, so maybe we can use some of the ARPA funds for that too. So
yeah, we'll bring a plan with that. On the safe zone, I believe PD is already working on that. They're, do you know how close we're for the safe zone?
I do not have a timeline, but I
Okay.
know that we've ordered the cameras for it to be at the police department. And then we're working on lighting in order for the lighting to be properly lit for these exchanges.
Excellent.
Okay. I think this needs to be done no matter what, so I'll have Code do a presentation on substandard housing and everything you requested. I'll let, pardon? No, we'll make sure what we can say or can't say. We'll work with the city attorney. I'll leave the deputy city clerk for the clerk's portion. Do I have consensus to bring back the intelligence by police on the issues that they're experiencing? One, two.
I'm sorry.
There was bring back basically the different issues that the police are experiencing. So
It's a summary of issues, trends, like
Oh, yeah.
90%
Yeah,
of police calls
absolutely.
were,
For sure.
bring back item on the food trucks, maybe changing locations where they're allowed, and the different issues that.
Where I thought we'd already had a fairly robust conversation about the food trucks. Did that stall out?
That did stall out because they're not allowed in the downtown area, but it was talked about maybe changing like around the Gateway area or where the old, my understanding was where the old KFC used to be located. That could be a place. There's some different locations that I think different people have come up with different solutions of areas that they could be at.
So then would that require us to repeal and replace the existing ordinance, or would it be as simple as going in and doing a text amendment or amendments?
I would almost think it would have to be a repeal of the current ordinance, but we'll work with the city attorney to figure out
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and I would like to see that be fairly time sensitive because, I mean, we're coming in, it feels like summer already here.
Correct.
And so it's the prime time to get folks out in our downtown, safe downtown, lots of cameras, lots of good things going on, lots of activity. So thank you.
Yes. City Manager, yeah, just really, because Mr. Burns, we did have that conversation. They were going to bring back a plan to use at KFC area, a few of the food trucks, and then we were waiting for that to have that food truck court in that area. So maybe you can talk to a few of those that were talking about it, and what's happened that it hasn't come forward.
Yeah, we'll work on it. Then the shopping cart, revisiting the shopping cart ordinance. It's about 6 years old. So, okay. Then is there a consensus to bring back a working group on the rally or on other festivals?
I thought we were going to, if I can, Mr. Mayor, sorry. I thought we were going to put it on the ballot, and I'd really like to see it on the ballot. I'd like to take it out of our hands, let the voters weigh in and decide on that. So I want to see the biker rally go to the ballot. The ballot. That's my suggestion.
I agree.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I think the city manager, or the city clerk's going to bring some of that up for some clarification here as the meeting plays out.
Okay. And I'll just say, I'll bring back to the council the outstanding building permits. That's not an issue. And then just so all the council knows that we're still waiting on the speed cushions to arrive. So it should be within, Henry, have you gotten a status? Well, it's like, maybe, I believe we're still, I mean, the initial was up to six weeks. So I think it's been.
The first 100 have arrived.
Oh, good.
Start fixing Sarah Vista next week, and then moving on to Sally Street and Monterey.
Okay. Did everybody hear that?
I noticed Beverly's complete now too. Thanks. My phone's been blowing up. I appreciate that.
We're here to serve. And then.
That's good stuff.
And then we'll bring, it was brought up before, council pay, we're still working on that one, so we'll get that brought to you.
Did you dig it and turn
That is all I have to, for my time.
limit?
Thank you, sir. City Attorney?
Thank you. No report, Mr. Mayor.
Did you get the
You?
term limits?
Oh, I believe that was for Christine's working on that one.
Okay, Captain?
I just wanted to
Do you have
give the
any-
community, I'm sorry. I just wanted to give the community a friendly reminder. On April the 6th, this Wednesday, we will be holding the Special Needs Registry at the Vets Building. The Hollister Police Department will be there to register anybody who wishes from the community. We also have the paperwork online on the city website. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk?
Thank you. So I did talk to Councilmember Burns, and he was talking to me about City of Salinas's website, and they have a QR code, and you can scan that with your cell phone, and it will take you to a page where you can click on different council meetings. What I was hoping to see, and maybe that's something we might be able to do, so you could go and you could just click on the video for our council meeting from the night before. We timestamp our videos, so you could look at each item if you wanted to. But I think Councilmember Burns was looking more at maybe doing just like a recap summary of, here's the resolutions that went to council, or would you want every single item that went to council with a little synopsis on?
For my preference, it would just be the agendized items that,
Resolutions?
Yeah, the vote was 3-2,
Votes.
4-1, 5-0,
Okay.
0-5, whatever.
That would be pretty simple to do, that we could probably post on social media. Oh, I don't know about the QR code part, but I did find out from the City of Salinas that we can purchase them for a pretty minimal cost. I didn't go that far into finding out how much, but I think we could easily, with our system that we currently have, post synopsis and the breakdown of who voted on what. And then, again, if council members want to state any reasons why they vote no or different for any reason, we could include that as well.
I'm real excited about the possibility of that, but I would also think maybe we would want to hold on it until we have your deputy city clerk on board. I think that could be a great first project for that person.
That would be great. And I did send an email out last week to HR requesting what the status was. I have not heard back, but I did also request that the position be posted on the City Clerks Association of California's website. There's another one. I just know when it comes through, it's Mike Madrid, and it's always city job posting. So I asked for it to be posted there, as well as the IIMC, the International Institute of Municipal Clerks website.
So that's been like 3 months since we authorized that. So, Mr. Miller, I don't know how we make that a priority, but from my perspective, I'd like to see that we move reasonably quickly on that as well, given the fact that it's been, I think we approved that in January.
Okay, I'll follow
And so,
up.
thanks. I mean, and I'm just speaking for me.
No,
So-
it needs to be followed up.
I'm looking to see if there was anything else you. Oh, term limits, yes. So I have spoken with our consultant, and I've asked him questions. And what I was going to bring to you on the 18th of April was a list of 5 projects that we have going that I need elections attorney services on. The first, we're already kind of working with him on, well, we are working with him on it, is campaign finance ordinance. He's having difficulty getting enforcement attorneys, so it's kind of at a dead stop right there, because without an enforcement attorney or an admin hearing process, we're right where we are. And if we can't find attorneys that are willing or able to do that, we can't go any further. We're stuck. So we're kind of stuck on that. The second one is creating a fire district for San Benito County and the city of Hollister and the city of San Juan Bautista. His question to me was, and what I'm asking him for is to give me an estimate on pricing, so I can bring that pricing to council and say, this item will cost this much, this item will cost this much. Do you want me to move forward? Before I have him go ahead and do the work, and then you guys say no at the end, and then that's a waste of his time.
Well, Chris, City Clerk, real quick, that would have to be a county-wide election. Why, as soon as we have that first meeting, I spoke to the mayor of San Juan. I think they finished appointing their 2 members, so we should be able to have that meeting next month.
I lost that email that I was reading off of. I clicked something. I didn't delete it, did I? The other, so that was campaign finance, fire district. The third was term limits. So he needs to know, our attorney needs to know whether we want this to be lifetime, consecutive. How many years are you talking? What are you looking at for terms? So maybe I do a poll or something on that to council if you decide to move. I don't know.
I think we could probably get there right here, right now, and fortunately, I don't think we're going to be here until midnight tonight, and so I'm cautiously optimistic, and so for me, my vision of term limits would be 2 consecutive 4-year terms, not counting, and Ms. Morales is a classic example in this case, where she got elected for a 1-year term. She would have the bonus of an additional year in that case, and then have them, if they wanted to, step away for 1 complete term for 4 years, and then they could run again. And I would also recommend that we move from a 2-year term for the mayor to 2 4-year terms for the mayor as well. And that would be my sense of where I'd like to see it go, but I'm open to council suggestions, of course.
And council, I would just ask that since we're not specifically agendized for this item, that we just give some general direction, and then the attorney handling it can take it back and consider some different options and bring that back to the council.
On the 18th, yeah. So that's finance, fire district.
I also like to explore the option of rotating mayors as well, so that it's...
So you want to take to the voters to not have an elective mayor?
Yeah, we have to change from the 4 districts to 5 districts.
Yeah, that's a huge change, as I understand it. And it's what we went away from. So I'm actually, personally, I'm fine with an elected mayor. Really what you're talking about there is more of a traditional council manager form of government, where every year the mayor, like our vice mayor does, rotates around, and then would have to go through redistricting, I would think, as well, which is, I got to believe that's a long ways out, as in probably I'm guessing at least a year from now, based on some of the other information I've heard. So, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I'm absolutely fine with an elected mayor.
I like the option, I like half of your proposal, 2 4-year terms for council, not including on a special election, and with a pause of 1 term. And for the mayor, though, I'm thinking 4 2-year terms with a pause of 1 election. And that's my suggestion.
The other item was, and I'm going off memory now because I've lost the email. I don't know where it is.
I'm going to let you buy some time. So I would like to hear the mayor and Mr. Resendez's thoughts on this as well, since, and I know we're just putting it out there, and then we're going to let the attorneys figure out what it looks like.
So I'm going to follow the attorney's advice. We're not agendized for this item, and I think we're getting way too into the details of our position. So I'm looking forward to having the conversation when it comes back at the appropriate time. I'll be quite honest with you. That's my position. Thanks.
This is a level of detail that will be more appropriate when we're actually agendized for this particular item.
I take everything I said back. Thank you.
So to put the rally on the ballot, it would be an advisory measure. So that's something we need to consider, and I'll leave it at that. And then I think the 5th one was Charter City. And Charter City, we just need to look at what we want specifically. He has done simple ones. He's done more complicated ones. He's done charter codes that are just 3 pages long. He's done them that are intensive. So its pricing would be based on the level of debt.
And again, that's perfectly appropriate for an informational report, but if we're going to go any more detailed into it, I'd ask that we actually agendize it and have that discussion at that time.
And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're going to go now to item G3.
Thank you, Mayor. So as council remembers that the city will be over 2 years get about approximately $9.7 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds. So the council's already gave the staff direction to use those funds for revenue replacement. We'll be bringing an agenda item on the 18th to kind of submit that choice so that we put it into the general fund. So that will allow us to use the funds, or really now use general fund funds how we would like. So we are recommending to council that we do a 5-year forgivable loan program for the development of new businesses in a downtown area, up to $2 million. The loans that we're recommending is, say, a restaurant with a kitchen, because kitchens with the stoves and hoods are very expensive for any new business to start up. It'd be $150,000, and then a retail or say a restaurant type with no kitchen, so like maybe like how Mars Hills used to run, be about $50,000. This is our recommendation. That would give approximately about 10 different businesses the ability to open up downtown. We're also recommending that we also use another about $250,000 towards additional parklet programs. I know there's some different businesses that are wanting parklets, or say a kitchen that opens up may want a parklet to go with their program, with their business, and then also to use some of that money to do beautifications as we improve maybe some old ripped awnings or just different items to improve the downtown, and then probably using like staff time to keep the area clean. You go ahead. Councilmember Perez, looks like you had a question? Okay, sorry. And then we can discuss hazard pay for city staff. Staff did go through and look at, I believe there's about 15 different cities that What it does appear like that most of them did a flat rate from anywhere from $1,000 up to, I believe, it was between 14 and 14,000. Either they would do a percent of pay or add to the their hours worked for a particular period up to a total amount. I believe Santa Clara County Council Mayor Morales, you can correct me if our sources are wrong, but I believe they gave staff $2,500. So that was one of our reference, or one of our agencies. But on that part, that is a direction from council. I know we've talked about different ways of doing it. I'm just coming back to you with what our staff recommends. If we do the loan, if we do follow through with the loan program, we would be getting business plans, proof of expenses, and then also there's some legal aspects that we would need to develop also, but we want to get council's direction before we go down that path. So open for questions or direction from council.
I do have a quick question for you, City Manager. The loan program, did I hear you say how much? Did you say $2 million?
Up to, yeah.
Is that like
up to
total?
Correct. So if we had no retail businesses and we had a bunch of restaurants, it would be more of a loan program, would be maybe up to like 15 or 16, but up to the $2 million. But we could always revisit and if it's successful, we can bring it back to council for additional funds if you feel like it needs to be more.
You mean total loans available? No one person can take a $2 million loan?
No, it'd be up to 100.
Correct.
What we're recommending is 150,000. But if the council
Correct.
wanted to do more, then that's up to council.
I think that's a fair amount, because I think one of the most important things about a business owner going to business is that they have capital also. Otherwise, they're going to overextend and get themselves into trouble pretty quick. I'd also like to see that term, if we're going to do a forgiveness, it'd be at least 10 years to make sure that revenue's coming back. I personally would rather not have a forgiveness program, more of a very low interest loan program, so we can bring that money back and help others in the future, rather than just a few people receiving the benefits of that. Let's keep reinvesting that money, but a very low interest rate, and then over so many years bring it back so we can keep reinvesting.
Yeah. This would be the policy of the council, so we're open.
Mayor Velasquez.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
So I agree with the mayor. I'm curious, though, if you're going to loan money, and this is just a what if, and you don't need to answer it now, just food for thought. If I own a building downtown and I'm a landlord and I rent out the building and I have a tenant that comes in and wants to open a restaurant, and they qualify and they open the business and then they fail, it's not like you can take a commercial kitchen out.
Correct.
And so for me, it just feels somewhat complicated. And so I don't know how we get there, but I also know that in the earlier days, it used to be that there were loans available through planning and development for, you need to put a new roof on your house, you need to put paint on your house. There are absolutely ways to get there through the old redevelopment model. And so I just don't know what that looks like. It just feels really complicated to me. And the more complicated it gets, the greater the risk, I think, of us losing people. But I'm in agreement. I would love to see more about that.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
I have one. So you said something about the business, the building owners downtown. So would they be able to use something like that? So some of the buildings that need some attention, shall we say?
Yeah, that's what we were kind of looking for, like saying, that was like the 250,000 piece would have been to, if a business needs to redo an awning, or maybe they need some spackling done or something, that we would just do it on a case-by-case basis to.
But that's the business. What if the business, the building owner wanted to dress up the building a little bit to get people to come in. I'm trying to see if we can come up to incentivize some of these buildings that are just not doing much downtown.
Yeah, I mean, usually the building owners, what I've heard is that they put that burden onto their leasee. So that would be part, once they had a leasee, they could do this program, and then they would have the funds to update their bathroom that maybe is not ADA compliant, or put the sprinklers in. That was kind of what we've heard is a new business comes in and they say, well, I can't afford to update the bathroom or things like that. So, I mean,
The ADA thing is really intriguing to me, because we also know that there are people that travel the city and the states to sue small businesses with nuisance suits, and then they collect and they go away for far less than they sue for. But I think ADA would be a great alternative as well. And Rick, my experience with what you're kind of talking about are back in the redevelopment era, when there was money flowing statewide, they had facade programs where they come in and they do a whole downtown. And once upon a time, I wouldn't be surprised if some of our sidewalks downtown, some of the planter boxes and some of the tree areas were probably done in that way 20 years or so ago.
Correct.
But this could be another way to refresh and renew those things as well.
yeah, if you wanted to add another layer, we could put like another layer for like ADA, basically an ADA loan.
That seems like a win-win to me. If we're if we want to bring people downtown and they need facilities, they need to be ADA compliant.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Yes. So I'd like to see that we do at least $2,500 for our employees as a flat rate, so that it's not complicated. I think in another jurisdiction, what we figured out from our accountants, that it was going to be a lot of time and energy if we did different variations. So to save a lot of time, it was a flat rate, non-persable money, but to be distributed. And most of it will be taken by taxes. So 2,500 is a good rate to have something in.
Yeah, and I'll add, one of the cities we looked at was pretty interesting, is that they had a chart. Did employees touch documents from outside, from other people? Did they interact with individuals outside the city? So they had like all these different checklists, and then that's when they said, pretty much, and they did a list of all their employees, and pretty much everybody checked the box. So it is a very difficult. Where do you draw the line where somebody was involved in COVID over the last 2 years? I know this was initially, the public safety was in there hit hard, but I will say throughout the process, COVID has affected every staff member somehow.
I would agree to that.
So I have a question. Dolores, I don't know, what jurisdiction are you referring to where they did that?
Santa Clara County?
Santa Clara County. How much ARP funds did they receive?
It was significantly higher.
We got like $9.7 million, and that's a lot of money. But I agree. I want to give something, and I've bounced this back and forth. But I guess my question would be, what did San Benito County give, and what amount of ARP money did San Benito County receive? And just for conversation, I think that San Benito County got about $3 million more than our
Correct.
city.
Correct.
And so, in my mind, I think that's like 20 or 25%. We got about 25% less money than they did. Dirty math. I'm going to acknowledge that as a math man. But, I'm fine with doing whatever San Benito County did, maybe minus the percentage to put us in line with what we received versus what they did. And I would also argue that I don't know how many employees we lost in the last 2 years, but I would also like to see that they get that as well.
Yes.
And in my mind, I really don't. Originally, I was like, definitely first responders, definitely those people that are out providing services, not necessarily everybody, but I'm gonna change a little bit, and I'll just say everybody, because it just makes sense to me.
Can I add the difficulty of that part? The generosity is definitely understood. The problem is those people don't work for us, so we have to pay them. We have to take taxes out. We don't have all their current payroll information to be able to process that paycheck.
But I bet if you made it aware to them that they could probably provide that to you, and I don't know, how many we're talking, 20 people maybe?
Probably, but
Right.
maybe if you, we'll have to put this all into an agenda, a resolution format, but if you would allow us maybe a time frame, if they don't get back to us within
Sure.
60 days or something like that, then they were.
Yeah, for me, that's absolutely fine. And I guess the other question that I have is, how does, we're a PERS agency, so how does this all factor into PERS? I heard comments about how taxes will consume a significant amount of it anyway.
Because this is a lump sum payment, it is not PERSable.
Nice, perfect, thank you. Those are my thoughts, I just speak for myself, I don't speak for the council.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? I would personally just be careful about going back to those that have left the city already. I think that does open up quite a few problems. I do want to make sure that we're allocating dollars to fix sidewalks. This is something we've been talking about for quite a while. We need to get these sidewalks fixed. So we need to put a program together that will finally get them fixed throughout the city.
Mayor, if I can. So our risk pool just had a board meeting today, and one of the items they're discussing is through the 10 cities to hire a firm that will come out, basically GIS mark all our sidewalks, and then also give us a price where, say, we would do $10,000 in sidewalk repairs, and then if we wanted to do more, we can add to that. So because this is put into our general fund, this is something that if once we have that program worked out, that we can bring that forward at that time, unless you want to just do some sidewalks at this time.
I would just say we save some money and have Mr. Burns go walking around and marking those sidewalks and bring that list back to him.
He is doing litter pickup, so we can, put something on it.
I'm your guy, I'm your guy.
This is really, to all joking aside, this is a program that's going to, depending on what we can get bids on with our local contractors, this is going to be a several $100,000 project that we need to do, if not closer to $500,000. So I think we can identify, it's not hard to identify the areas. We just need to get out there and go do it, and then figure out a way to a price per square foot of sidewalk repairs, and have our locals just be able to come in and make this process much quicker than our attempts in the past. I think in the past we just made it too complicated, and it just never went anywhere. And we just need to let these contractors go out, identify the areas, have this, again, the set price per square foot, so they can get it done quickly once we approve it, rather than the process we went through before. We never got anywhere with it, and we need to recognize the problem, just get it done.
Yeah, I should add to that, there would have been only sidewalks that have less than 2 inches gap. So what we could do is look at actually the sidewalks that are severely, like say, over the 2-inch gap to be repaired.
Well, I would say a 1-inch gap is too much. That's a tripping hazard. So we need to just, again, identify what's causing it. We know it's the roots. Cut the roots, and we have to cut some of those trees down also where we have these issues, so it doesn't come back.
Okay.
Which will lead to a whole nother conversation. But hey, I don't want to get out at 10 o'clock tonight. So,
Speaking of, can you guess what I'm going to bring up?
Let me guess, alleys?
Yes, alleys. And you know what? The sidewalks, it's District 1 and 2 will be seeing a lot of that sidewalk work. I'm sure the other districts also. But, so I just want to make sure, I want to make sure that, because we did have direction from council before about addressing these alleys issues, and I know that you're working on getting a bond measure so that we can get some plans done so that then we can just move forward, or then we're going to start to get money for that.
So for the alleys, what the hope was that we will be hearing from CDBG to do the plans for the alleys. The bonds would be for street and alleys, actually to pay for the work to get them done. So the CDBG would pay for the plans so that we know we have those plans so that we can bid out the projects. And then the bond money would be to pay for the roads and alleys to be actually repaired.
Because I know there's alleys on the CIP list also, the project book. Yeah, okay. I'm just giving you your friendly reminder.
Every time I see you, I remember, I think alleys.
Mayor Tim Burns.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Brett, so that I'm clear, I want to take a step back now that we've taken one or two forward. As it relates to the hazard pay, I think you've gotten a couple different thoughts from council, and so I'm about worn out on kicking this thing down the road. And so from my perspective, is this something that you could bring us back, Ms. Morales' plan of $2,500 per employee, or Plan B, which would be whatever the county did minus whatever the percentage difference was, and at that meeting, we can make a decision and be done with this?
Yeah, I would like to get a consensus of what dollar amount you would want for the employees, either the one that Councilmember Morales said, or I can do some algebra instead of dirty math to figure out exactly what the county did compared to what we received. That's fine. I could bring that back at the next council meeting. The actual loan program probably take a little bit long. It would be another meeting or so. But what I would want some direction. What do you want to do? Pay to the employees? Do you want to do the loan program with also the ADA loan tier? And do you want to do sidewalks up to a certain dollar amount? It sounded like 250,000. But that's up to the council to give that direction.
So from my 2 cents, I would, I understand the other things will take a little bit of time. And so, but if you could bring back the hazard pay for the next council meeting, and again, I only speak for myself, but I think our employees have been very patient. And so I would like to put it to bed at the next meeting if that's possible.
Employees would appreciate that if we can come up with the dollar amount.
I'd like to, I agree with you, and I think without making it any more difficult or pushing it any farther, I'm for 2,500.
Do I have a vote of 3 for 2,500, or you want to push, or not a vote? Well, I mean, staff direction. Sorry, not a vote. Can I get staff direction? That
I was going to say we don't want to go there.
I appreciate that.
I want to see the numbers.
Okay.
And again, I'm only one here, so if
No,
there
but what
are two
I
others that are with Rick,
Well,
it is what it is.
How about this? Because I've got two different, we'll present both numbers on the staff report, and then somebody can make the motion at that time.
Perfect. Thank you.
I've got any direction on the sidewalk. Do you want me to bring that at a future time? Sounds like 250,000 on sidewalks.
Can I ask Henry a question? Do you know about how much it is per square foot for repairing a sidewalk?
Right now, the prices are really high because of raw material, so it's probably double what we normally would be looking at. 1 square would probably cost us, say, $150 right now.
1 square foot? And
Well, 1 square, so a 3 by 3.
Well, 3 by 3.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if you.
250 is not bad.
250, or I was gonna, if it's double, I would almost say $500,000. This is to protect us from liability, which one trip hazard could cost us in the millions if proven that it's our fault.
Yeah, I think 500 is probably the number we need to look at, and then put together the program to make it easy for the local contractors to identify the areas that we have problems, submit the plan, and get it done.
Do we actually have a study done, not a professional study, but staff? I mean, I can think of some in District 4, but it would be nice to know really where the problems are, and then we could figure out, is 250 enough? Is it $500,000? Is it $2 million?
Yeah, maybe, okay. I'm going to say 250. We'll do some of that analysis too. So I've got my direction. If everybody has no more to
Mr.
add.
Mayor, Council, City Manager, IT Director Paul De Silva, I just kind of want to throw a couple things in there too, since we're talking about investments in infrastructure. We had talked about extending the cameras, safe zones. There's opportunity to extend our fiber network out to some of these areas where we can utilize some of those things that the council wants to do. We don't have our own fiber to the treatment plant. There's a project to connect San Juan Bautista, as we talked about earlier today, the treatment plant. That also includes running a fiber conduit all the way to the treatment plant. We can extend our fiber network from the yard through Brigantino Park to the treatment plant. Brigantino Park, you can add more cameras, safe zone for internet. Fire Station 2 is on a wireless connection, no fiber to that area. We can work with the county. There's their public works off of Southside Road. We can go through the high school. I mean, there's other agencies we can partner with to get their fiber out there. Just kind of throwing that out there as part of having the investments in doing a lot of things that the council wants to do. So just throwing that out there. I don't have a cost for that, but
are you going to get one?
I can throw a cost if you want. I know that a few years ago, to get to the treatment plant through Brigantino Park, we're only able to extend it to City Yard because it was going to cost almost $1 million to get it to the treatment plant. And that was part of that project extended, so we didn't go that far. But now we got the fiber to City Yard. We can go from City Yard out to the treatment plant. Again, the cost, that was a few years ago. Who knows what it is now with all the.
So with that, when you do your fiber optic cable going out there, do you get bigger cable? Can you get bigger ones to?
Yeah, the projects that we've done with the backbone, we've had 3 3-inch conduits, I believe, and we have a 96 strand fiber.
And each strand is is one connection, one line, basically.
Yeah, well, 2 fibers would be when to transmit and receive, right?
Okay.
And so, depending on how many we terminate, we would have extra in the ground for future, or even lease out, or we could have the conduit in the ground to lease out to utilities and stuff like that too. So I mean, there's other opportunities there.
So maybe we can do some research and then bring it back.
Sure.
And I have, we're doing the same thing at several other facilities. I'm happy to provide you with some names for you to have meaningful discussions. I do have to say that it is going to be extremely expensive, and the cost back then, if it was $1 million, it's probably times 5 or 10 now. Because there's labor and there's just materials are just not available. But this could be considered, a multi-year project, and then just being able to cost it out as well, especially if you talked about all the different areas, we need a multi-year plan for that.
Right.
Yeah, and just so council knows too, Paul's real good about when we do projects, and myself also to remind when I'm talking with the county that when we open up the streets, put in water lines, sewer lines, that we try to put in conduit wherever we can. Sometimes we get pushback, but that's our big push, is to get that conduit.
I did push to get the conduit from San Juan Bautista.
Right.
And I worked with them on that engineering of all that too, so.
Good job.
Wasn't this originally part of what the ARP funds were originally designated for?
It is one of the
Right.
things that you can use it
Right.
for. I will say, and we'll work with the county too, because I believe there's other broadband money out there that we're trying to get for the whole area.
I was just going to mention that there's going to be a lot of money coming for broadband coming through. So this is, we can put the plan together working with the county. An overall joint effort. All right, thank you. Did you get enough direction?
Yes, I
Manager?
did. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, then, thank you. We're going to now move to adjournment. Mr. Burns, did you want to make that motion?
Mr. Mayor, H1, updated city council request, please.
Oh, geez, I didn't see that. Thank you. All right, we're going to H1.
Is that me? Is that you, Brett?
Well, I think we just probably for council to receive the current report, and then if you have any really just disagreements with it, to bring it forward to us, but we'll keep updating it and moving it forward. Is that okay with council? Yeah, I think this is more informational report.
Is that all right with everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
And you get to go home then.
Thank you. Hey, Clerk, is that good?
I'm sorry, I was interrupted. I missed that completely.
Are you okay with us just
That you
using it
accept the
as an
report?
informational report?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burns, did you want to make the motion to adjourn?
I do, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn in memory of Jesus Gomez and Daniel Gonzalez.
Thank you, sir. There's a motion.
I second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Resendez?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales? Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perez?
Yes.
Mayor Velasquez?
Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all. Good night.
Recording stopped.
Introduce yourself.
Sure.
From Four Leaf, they're basically our new Abraham.
I'm sorry. So I'm Takar Nicole Thomas. I've been with Four Leaf for about, gosh, I can't even remember now, for a while. Came originally from Florida, now I'm out here in California, helping out you all.
Adriana Ortiz, 4 Leaf also, since January. For that, airport planning and land use planning, and I've been all over the place, so.
Now that we know you're here.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
give
just
me
trying to
your
hide
phone
in the
number.
back.
Don't give me
We
your phone
almost
number.
got out.
Vice Mayor Perez was like,
I
no.
wanted to mention that we're, I have Victoria start personnel for,
No.
Tim, the first step in the.
Nice meeting you guys.
Okay.